Hello, I'm Carol Smaldino, and welcome to The Human Climate. My guests today are Evelyn Lindner and Linda Hartling. Before I say anything about the two of you, I have to say that talking with you should really be for an entire day, and even a description of the two of you could last at least a half a day. So I'm going to be kind of brief with excuse me for that, okay? Evelyn Lindner is a doctor of medicine and a doctor of psychology. She is the founding president of HDHS, which is Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies. This is a group of global community concerned academics and practitioners, and I would say, and human beings of all ranges who come together as part of a wish to promote dignity in the world, and I would say, and fight humiliation, and literally from all over the globe. Dr. Lindner is also co-founder of the World Dignity University Initiative, including the publishing house Dignity Press, to which I owe my own publication, The Human Climate, as well. All initiatives are not for profit. Evelyn has numerous books on subjects of emotions, conflict, economy, transforming conflicts into situations of dignity. I would press the audience to look her up online, Evelyn Lindner, because her books are too many to begin to describe. Linda Hartling has a PhD in clinical community psychology and has published papers on relational cultural theory. She is the current director of Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies and is also part of the team collaborating on all of the projects, including the University Initiative and Dignity Press. So I hope that's a beginning summary. If you want to add anything at any time, please do. So let me start. I would like to ask you how you met and how you joined the forces of passion and compassion to do this work. Either of you could start with that one.
Well, thank you, Carol. First, we have to start by thanking you for bringing us together. We're very excited to be with you because we want to mention that your book is like a role model for Dignity Press. Your wonderful book, its message about caring for others and caring about the human climate that we have in the world is such an important message. And Evelyn and I look to your book and to your website as a model for all of the authors for Dignity Press. So we just have to start out by congratulating you and the work that you've done. It's really been an inspiration to all of us. So how we met, I think, is what you asked. And what I should say is, you know, about 20 or 30 years ago now, there was not any literature. There was very little literature on the subject of humiliation. And I happened to be very lucky to work with a man named Don Klein. He was a founding father of the field of community psychology. And he wrote a crucial paper looking at the dynamics of humiliation being put down, degraded, and demeaned. And as a doctoral advisor for me, he really gave me the inspiration to develop a scale to assess the experience of humiliation. So that was my doctoral degree. And I developed a scale that people could look at their feelings of humiliation and past experience of humiliation, so we could start putting a finger on this experience. And during that time, I was very lucky to also be working with Jean Baker Miller, who was a psychiatrist, who was a legendary psychiatrist in the field at the time, who was looking at these kinds of human experiences through a relational lens, because psychology in those years was very focused on individual experience. But she really helped me look at the dynamics of humiliation from relationships, interpersonal relationships, a relationship with ourselves, and our relationships in the world. So I was trying to combine those characteristics of looking at humiliation from a relational perspective so we could think about how we can move toward greater dignity in the world. Well, thank goodness Dawn was contacted by Evelyn Lindner. And this is why I have to turn the story over to Evelyn, because Evelyn also caught on to the idea of the importance of humiliation. So Evelyn, you'll have to carry on from there.
Thank you so much, dear Carol. And before I say anything, I have to join Linda in congratulating you for your life work. And you must know that we follow whatever you write, also in the media. We are so impressed by the sophisticated and nuanced thinking that you bring to us always. It's a gift to the world, to us personally also, what you do and your path. So we are deeply, deeply thankful to what you bring to the world, the dignity that you bring to the world. And in the book that I'm just now writing about dignity and solidarity, I have big parts where I quote you, and I include you. Yes, your voice is very, very important. So yeah, let me say that in 1997, I was sitting alone in an office in the Department of Psychology in Norway, in Oslo. And I just had received a stipend for a doctoral research of 4 years about humiliation and war and genocide, with cases Rwanda and Somalia on the background of Nazi Germany. And just picture me sitting there alone in this office, and my doctoral advisor was as afraid as I was. He said to me, Evelyn, you will humiliate the Department of Psychology because what you are trying to do is impossible, because there is no real research on humiliation. And so I sat there and I was as kind of pessimistic that I could do it. And I reached out to everyone who had ever said anything about humiliation. And Don, he had published 2 special issues of a journal and about humiliation. So I wrote to him, and he said, oh, I have here somebody you should meet. And this was Linda Hartwig. And this was in 1999. In 1999, for the first time, we were connected via email. And this has been a life-changing connection for me. For me, the world has changed through this connection to Linda. In 1999, we were not yet much connected. It took some time. It took time until 2003. I finished my doctorate in 2001, and in 2003, I found myself in Paris at the Maison des Sciences de l'Homme, which is a global international academic institution in France. And they said to me, Evelyn, why don't you invite all people you know who are interested in humiliation to come to Paris? We give you a room, we give you free lunch. And I said, nobody will come. I don't think, So I wrote an email to everyone I knew him, Linda included. And I said, now it's June. Can we meet I think it was in September, will you come to Paris? Will you do that? And nothing, no money, nothing, just come. And Linda came with her husband. I remember I picked her up on the airport, and this was the start of a better life for me. And the start of our cooperation. Without this cooperation between us, our global dignity community would not be there.
Thanks. I want to ask you both what you see as the meaning of humiliation, but if I might, I'd like to ask each of you how you were drawn to this work, and if you could say as much as you feel comfortable with about your past. And Evelyn, I'd love for you to mention the role of the Holocaust, if you would.
Oh, okay. I'll start. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for asking. I have a hard time with this question because it is sort of a heartbreaking past history that motivates me. And I describe it as my work is largely inspired by my mother's experience in the post-war years, where she was coerced into giving up her free spirit, living on the farm, working hard on the farm lifestyle, and felt that her patriotic duty during the 1950s was to be a stay-at-home mom so that men could have paying jobs after the war. So she felt like it was her duty to be that really good mother role figure, and soon found herself with 4 small children and in conditions where there was limited work for my father and we were perpetually uprooted. Yet my mother tried to live up to that rugged individualism that is expected at that time, and everybody was supposed to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, but it really broke her down. And by the time she sought help for psychological problems, that was during the 60s, and the main way women were treated, one of the ways that women were treated was with medication, and from there, that became her experience of being misdiagnosed and mistreated within the mental health system, virtually put in a pharmaceutical straitjacket for the rest of her life. And that has been my motivation for finding ways to create systems that protect the dignity of all people in getting the care that they need in the world, and to get past this sense of rugged individualism. And that's why my work with Jean Baker Miller has been so important in my early days, in that she helped me realize that we all grow through healthy connections, and those healthy connections fuel our dignity as we take steps in the world and empower us to take action on behalf of ourselves and other people. And so in some ways, our group that we've created is an opportunity to create that healthy system that supports the growth of all people, as everyone has a chance to grow. That's how I came into this work.
I just want to thank you, but also to say that I appreciate what you said, and I appreciate talking about somebody who is not necessarily a minority in terms of race or ethnicity or from a poor country, because I think one of the issues in our society has been a kind of comparative humiliation, where you can only get attention sometimes if the suffering is very, very dramatic. And I think it's very important that many of us have suffered humiliation in more subtle ways, and that all of it counts. So if you're going to talk about dignity, I'm sure you both feel this way, that there's dignity in the lifeline of everybody, but also in the suffering of everybody. And you don't have to be rich or poor, or you don't have to have been raped, or you don't have to have been something that is completely obvious. So, Evelyn, I know that you were affected by the aftermath of the Holocaust. If you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, it's as you say, you are so good in formulating the nuances and the complexity of situations. In my case, I would say it's a huge package of many layers of humiliation. And as you say, Holocaust, it's a big word, and everybody knows what it means. It means humiliation to a degree that has no words. but then there are many, 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 many other aspects. There was a war. There was, you know, people who never wanted the war had to pay for the war, had to suffer for in the aftermath, and so it's if I see my father in front of me now, he sits there, he's 95 years old, he has lost one arm in this war, and I'm there to be his arm. I always say that my work is his arm, and he has suffered so many layers of humiliation that it would be, about half an hour to just list them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not just one thing, it's a whole universe of different ways of humiliation. And so my way out of it is to say, my personal decision is to feel proud of everything that humanity ever achieved, everything nice that humanity ever achieved. The ability to be to love, for example, to be caring. I'm proud of this human ability. Also, I choose to feel personally responsible and ashamed of all the atrocities that humanity, all humans, have ever perpetrated in our human history on this planet. I personally have chosen to take the responsibility for that and dedicate my entire life to working for dignity in response to that. My entire life, every minute, is dedicated to responding, to answering to this call for responsibility.
Okay, thank you. I'd love it, Evelyn, and Linda too, if you could say something about the economic realities that I've heard you both talk about as being obstacles to dignity.
Well, I will just start a little bit by saying all of our work is a labor of love. Our entire community work is a labor of love. Sometimes I describe it as a community built on a extreme, lean, green, but not mean economic system. And that's very intentional. It's not because we aren't knowledgeable about doing the nonprofit path or earning money in a variety of ways. It's because we are doing our best to protect this really special climate where people are giving from their hearts and participating from their hearts. So there's none of the external incentives or barriers that keep people from participating. So I'll just start by saying our community is founded on this dedication as a labor of love. Now, for the big capital C, I'm going to turn it to Evelyn. Evelyn.
Yes, I was asked to write a book about terrorism, and when I started thinking about it, I found that the most significant source of terrorism or terror in the world are our economic systems. So I found that I couldn't write a book about terror. I first had to write a book about economy. So I wrote a book in 2012 about a dignity economy. It's the title, A Dignity Economy. And of course, I'm not an economist. And so I approached the topic and I said, okay, I'm not an economist, but when I look around as a psychologist, I see the damage that is caused by our economic systems everywhere. And I have 6 chapters in this book where I kind of spell out the huge damage on the psyches of our people in the world by our economic systems. So this was in 2012, and since then there is a lot of more research, and I've followed it. And there are big names, economists who have done research about the rising inequality in the world, and so there is a lot of research since 2012. And still today, I would say that the world, or the decision makers in our world, and especially in the global north, have not understood the destructiveness of the economic systems that they condone and that they continue with. So it has a psychological effects that I think economists do not really consider sufficient.
I'm finding it very interesting to listen to you. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking about my own work on the shadow and helping people get in touch with their own emotions and having more empathy, and I guess you'd say dignity for all of the emotions that they have, so that they can internalize some self-empathy, if you will, and so they can care better about other people. And I say that if people are not in touch with their own emotions and they can't integrate them and they can't tame them, then they tend to either demonize other people or they tend to put people on pedestals. But I think in some ways the most urgent problem is that when people are so far away from their own emotions and so lacking in dignity in a real way, they are detached. And I see the people who have the greatest power economically and politically as often so detached that it's not just that they don't consider the other people who are suffering, they don't care. They don't care and literally almost see the only goal in life as having more power. Now, some of these are religious people and are moving towards the apocalypse. So they really, really don't care. And not only don't they care, but they're excited about global chaos. But I wonder if if each of you could comment on the people in power who don't care and if there's any way to shift that.
Ooh, big question, Carol. Very big question. What comes to mind for me is I couldn't agree with you more with the idea that people can become so detached. And we're in a society, I think, that sort of reinforces that detachment, that not caringness. And one thing that strikes me is that sometimes, because of that, people substitute feeling special or gaining power for real relationships. And this is where, your book inspires us, and our efforts as a community is creating spaces where people get that sense of real, authentic engagement in relationships, where they can bring themselves into the experience without having to hold themselves back to protect themselves. And from there, ideally, we hope people will take that spirit of authentic relationships out into the world. And I think that's why we have, similar into your book, is paid so much attention to the quality of relationships that we're creating in our community. We say we put relationships first, that we grow best by supporting the growth of all involved, that we listen each other into voice so people can bring themselves into relationship, and that we emphasize the value of engaging in dignity plus dialogue, which we call dignilogues. So those are some of the ways that we keep trying to move forward so people in our group and they can have that experience of authentic engagement, that we can overcome that disconnection that you're talking about, and then carry that feeling into all of our work. We're building dignity in the world. Evelyn probably could add
Yes,
to
and
that.
it requires a huge amount of intentionality from our side to protect this in this atmosphere in our community. Because, of course, we live in a world that is not with us on that. And I have thought about it for the past 40 years or more. What is it that exactly this question that you asked, and where does it come from that the most ruthless dominators seem to become also those who are in power? How come that ruthless dominating is somehow shaping our world? How come? Where does it come from? And so over the years and years and years, I have developed my kind of narrative. I call it a big history narrative. And I combine, I draw from different disciplines. For example, political science, international relations theory teaches us about the security dilemma. And when we look at our human history, we know, just let us look some into the history books. Always the most ruthless dominator was winning the battle. So the security dilemma says, if you want peace, prepare for war. This is the motto of the security dilemma. And it was kind of defining the past 10,000 years of human history on this planet, more or less. And in a situation where the most ruthless dominator is also the victor, basically we cannot expect anything but that this mindset is still with us today, even though in today's world it is suicidal. It's no longer bringing victory, it's basically bringing collective suicide. It was a mindset that was somehow partially useful in the past millennia, when the history books are full of that. One emperor, one leader of an empire is fighting another, and they are having their wars and their duels, and they win and they lose. This was the past millennia of our history. And so to be the most ruthless dominator had some usefulness, some utility. But now we are so globally interconnected, it has lost this utility, but the mindset is still with us. And when we look at the systems, the economic systems, the world system, it's built on what we could call, in social psychology, you have this experiment. It's called the prisoner's dilemma game, and you can frame it and say to the students who play it, this is a Wall Street game, and they will cheat on each other. They will be the dominators. And if you say this is a community game, it's the same game, then they will cooperate. So at the moment, I would say we have a global system, a global economic political system that is a Wall Street frame. And in a Wall Street frame, the dominators are, this mindset is dominant, is winning. So when we look at the people in power today, slowly, women come in, or also men with a more a mindset that is more geared towards dialogue and partnership. Slowly, but this is very difficult. The mindset of domination and combat and winning, this mindset is very strong. And these two mindsets, they are at the moment both with us. And the Wall Street mindset will kill us if we let it go. And the only chance we have is to somehow leave that mindset behind. And when we look at the indigenous peoples, they were able to contain the dominators, because there's always a certain percentage in each society, and they were able to contain them. And also we, in our global village, I think we can contain them. We can protect our commons from the dominators who exploit them. We can. I always refer to the research of Elinor Ostrom, who received the Nobel Prize for Economy, I think in 2009, for her research, how also bigger groups can protect the commons from being exploited. And I think so. I wrote one book in 2010, Gender, Humiliation, and Global Security. I think this notion of global security is something that psychologists often do not look at. It's the field of political science, international relations, but global security is extremely important for the psyche of every human being on the planet. If you think that if you want peace, prepare for war, if you believe in that sentence, you have a certain mindset. And every person on the planet has a choice to have either this mindset or the mindset of Gandhi. Peace is not the end, peace is the path. So this is, I think, the situation we are in, and it's a global situation, and therefore I work globally, because global security, it's a global problem. The security problem is a global problem, and it influences our psyche, everyone's psyche. So therefore I work globally because I want to combine this. Therefore, this book of 2010 had the title Gender, Humiliation, and Global Security.
So thank you. To just combine what the two of you were saying, without doing that on purpose, I'm thinking, Linda, of the celebrity culture. And one of the things I think about is, the Carl Jung theory of the shadow, that our job is to re-own all the parts of ourselves. So if we own all the parts of ourselves, we don't have to project them. And we can own our imperfection, really, not as a fashion statement, but as a real thing. And that only, he says, the imperfect can love, because the imperfect have needs. And people who consider themselves perfect, even though there's no such thing, wouldn't have any need. So if you don't have any need, you really can't love. I wish this book could be republished by Dignity Press, because The Undiscovered Self, because it needs to be a bestseller, because I think, as I'm hearing you talk, that one of the things that's important in seeking authenticity is the fact that people, I think, are exhausted. I think this celebrity culture and the culture of living up to standards that have nothing to do with us is really exhausting. And so I think all of this needs to spread, which leads me to another question or statement, which is that your organization is so under the radar, it's not even funny. I mean, it's really like, if I say the words, someone goes, huh? That sounds really interesting, but I've never heard of it. And I know that you're not for profit, and I know that you're not looking for fame, but I think more people need to know about you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for that endorsement, because yes, we agree. On the one hand, we really want people to know about this work and invite them into our community. And we want people to know that this is a place where they can collaborate with people that are dedicated to advancing dignity in the world. At the same time, we're also aware that there can be so many distractions becoming visible in the world. I think Evelyn will speak to this more clearly, but it has been a bit of our strategy to be a bit under the radar, because it gives us the ability to reach out to a larger community in a loving way without having to have a guru or a celebrity. We try to walk the talk of this work by creating the human climate, where everyone is valued for their contribution in their own way and in their many different ways. So we really are committed to making this work widely available. And at the same time, we recognize there are some prices to be paid when you get above the radar, because you spend time fending off the critics or those people that would drain your energy. And we want all our energy to go into this work. So you're right, we aren't looking to be celebrities, we're looking to create a community. And we like to support those people that are taking this work out in the world in very, very different ways. I don't know if we said we're a transdisciplinary community, but that's really key to our work because we have so many people working in healthy workplaces or looking at conflict resolution or looking at education. And we just want to provide a safe space so they can really grow their work. But you're right, we'd love to have more people aware of our community and invite them into our community and build those relationships that are really based on what you were saying, sense of authenticity in doing the work. Evelyn, you might want to add to that.
Not much. I think you said it so very well. We were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times in 2015, 16, 17. And we said, okay, we are happy to be nominated, but we don't want the prize because we don't want this visibility. We have conferences in parts of the world. We have 2 conferences per year, one at Columbia University in New York in December and the other in another part of the world each year, except now for Corona. And we had our conference in China, in Egypt, in Rwanda, in Brazil, and I always go there several months before I lived there in order to learn about the red lines. In some places, the word dignity is, if you go to Egypt, the dignity revolutions that happened there, they left it's not a good thing to speak about dignity and democracy sometimes, and so one has to be very, very careful with the word dignity in the world. And one reason for why I can do that work, I can go to all parts of the world and speak about dignity. The first thing I say is, I am not serving any national interest. I'm not serving any corporate interest. I have no employment and I have no funding from any big funder. That is the first entry ticket. And so the not having money is the most important entry ticket into our global work for me when I organize a conference somewhere in the world. So the word dignity is a very difficult word in many parts of the world. And the way Linda and I understand it is this compassion, this solidarity. And if we want to bring it into the last corner of the world, really, then we have to be under the radar. And first to be without money. That's extremely important because money is connected with interest, with being influenced, sent by somebody. So I must say, I'm only me, and I have this and this and this experience from my family. I'm born there and there. This is my biography. Therefore, I am doing this work. I'm not doing it for any country. I'm not doing it for any company or for any big funding organization. I'm not. I'm living almost without money. I'm living on the small gifts I get when I go around the world and live with people there. And then I say, okay, and what I want to bring out of my history of, being born into war and displacement in Europe, my wish is to bring a specific notion of dignity and solidarity, and to bring us together under this notion. And it takes weeks and months to explain that, and to bring together people who then resonate with that. And being under the radar protects them also, because in some areas, like let's say in Brazil, when we had our conference there in 2019, we had to block all our cameras. We had to, the lawyers we were meeting, they had just 10 of their colleagues being killed. So under the radar is very important for the globality of our work.
That's helpful to me. And I think it's important to say that there are people across the world who do know about you and who want to offer something to you, whether that be some funds or a place to live or food at their table. And I think you can be nomadic also because people respond to that. People resonate with that. So is there anything that you wonderful ladies would like to add?
Well, one thing I want to add, Carol, is that it's people like you who are carrying this message out into the world in a bigger way with your incredible writing and your book, and even this gathering we have right here. This is what gives us hope for this work. We like to be under the radar, but we're happy to have people like you who can speak out and speak up in support of this important message. And we think that that's the way this work grows out in the world, through relationships with people like you.
Thank you. I would say it can be contagious.
I agree.
In the best of ways. And you, Evelyn?
Absolutely wonderful. We are so blessed by your care and your solidarity and your dignifying solidarity. You have no idea. Also, this initiative that you invite us now, that you have Chris with you and that you are doing this, it's absolutely wonderful. We are extremely, extremely thankful to you and full of appreciation and admiration. And we know, we have been together for so many years. We know about your path in life, and you have seen the dark sides of the world and of the soul. You have seen it. And this gives you the credibility to do the work you do.
Okay, I want to thank you both, Evelyn Lindner and Linda Hartling. And
thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a beacon of dignity in the world.
thank you.